I've worked in the legal industry with big law. Those two are very different, but they also move very slowly, right? Like they're slow to change, big enterprise companies. They're skeptical. Yes, they're totally different in some ways, but there is a lot of overlap. And so I think being able to find those overlapping points in industries is really helpful to be able to say, hey, look, no, I don't know about your industry. I don't know anything about it. However, I think it translates, what I've done translates in these ways.
Hello and welcome back to Product Marketing Life. I'm Sid Kaitan, your host. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Beekeeper by Lumaps. And in this episode, I got to talk to Michelle Zak. Michelle is an early stage product marketer. She's had a long career going from design to marketing leadership. And in this episode, she talks to me about how to avoid being trigger happy when it comes to frameworks and how she made the jump from multiple different startups in multiple different industries. I really think you'll enjoy this one. Michelle's a good friend, and please give this one a listen. See you there. Well, welcome, Michelle. Great to see you again. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me, Sid.
Yes. So, of course, I know a little bit about you, but I'm sure this will reveal even more. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I am shockingly a product marketer. I'm based in Chicago here. We are neighbors. And gosh, what can I tell you? I've sort of lived all over the place in the country. I've traveled around a lot. You'll learn that has a lot, so is my career path. So there's a lot of parallels there. But I've lived everywhere from Bar Harbor, Maine out to Denver, Colorado, and here in Chicago now. Love to get outdoors and have good stuff, touch the grass and see the trees to balance out my time behind the computer as well.
I love that. So before we start talking about product marketing, I'm very curious to hear, what's a non-marketing skill, I guess, if there is such a thing, that has made you better at your job?
Yeah, there's actually a few. My background as a designer, which I imagine we'll talk about, plays a lot into it, just having graphic design skills in general. If we're talking more on the technical end, always super helpful to have that in my back pocket to be able to whip up things quickly and not have to go to a designer for something fast. I think the varied interests that I have, both like my varied experiences of places I've lived, I'm a very eclectic interests and hobby kind of a person. And I think that has helped a lot because I'm always very curious and learning new things and, sort of a beginner at a lot of stuff. So I think that's been great and helpful as a product marketer because it lets me, figure out how to start from scratch with a new customer and really understand them and understand what they need. And then I'm also like a super organized project managey sort of a person. I love that. I love lists and all of that. So I think that helps a lot with multitasking. So there's actually a lot there. I would say that, those are probably also marketing skills, but also non-marketing skills that are marketing skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As I said it out loud, it's like, wait, this is actually a tough question because isn't everything just a
project management is a product marketing skill, but it's also a separate skill. So I don't know.
So marketing is life, basically,
yeah.
what we're saying.
Awesome. Something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the designer plus project manager is is a great archetype, right? To be able to have those both of those together in your back pocket. So
yeah, I can't tell you the number of times that I've worked on teams where we don't have a graphic designer on hand and being able to whip stuff up. Obviously not to the peak level of an actual designer and practice designer, but getting something out the door really quick is really useful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And product marketers come up with some good slides as well. From all the, when I was at PMA, I was like, wow, we come up with some really good slides. I don't see this often.
Yeah. There really are some great ones. Although some people do use designers, but I think the content in there helps. What we come up with to put in there gets a long way for a designer too, even if you bring one in.
Yes. Awesome. Well, yeah, let's jump into product marketing. I'm curious if you could just walk us through your career, your journey, your stumbled into product marketing moment.
Yeah. So definitely stumbled. I have a background as a designer, as I alluded to earlier. So I started out as a graphic and print designer working with like newspapers and print publications. And before that, I mean, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a minor in Spanish literature. So like I'm, nowhere near even design, really. I was not behind a computer. I was painting and drawing and doing installations. So I was a print designer. Then I realized I really wanted to try to do more digital design and web design, but I didn't quite understand the possibilities of the world of web design. And I didn't quite know how to work with developers. So I taught myself to code and then I took some classes on top of that. And so I learned how to do basic front end skills so that I could understand what was possible. Um, and then I wound up moving to Boston and joined my first startup as an official, like, visual digital designer at a startup. I was there for a couple years before I sort of realized I don't really want to become a better designer. Like anytime I was trying to improve my skills, I found myself avoiding it and taking my time with it and dragging my feet. And I was like, like maybe I don't want to be a designer. Maybe I want something else. And I was really fortunate. I had two great mentors. I had a lot of great mentors at that company, but one was head of product and one was head of marketing. And they really give me the opportunity to play around in both departments a little bit. So I did some project management, I did work in products, I did more marketing related things, and I sort of played in all those spaces. And I realized what I liked the most about everything I did in all of those was understanding the customer and what their needs were and what their story was. So taking it beyond, as a designer, you might think like, well, you came to this web page. What are you trying to accomplish? And how do I make that an easier process for you? I wanted to like go even deeper into like, why did you come here in the first place? What information do you have? Where are you in your buying journey? And sort of what do I need to serve you? What do I need to give you in your education along this buying journey? So I realized I liked that in all of those, is that like really understanding the customer. And at the time, I didn't know what product marketing was. I had never heard the term before, but there was an opening in marketing. And so I took it. I went into marketing. And I was there for a number of years. By the time I left, I was head of marketing and design. And as I was continuing on in my career, I kept realizing more and more clearly, I learned that those skills that I really liked, I did broader marketing skills, but the stuff I really liked was product marketing stuff. Like, where do we fit in the market? Who are our competitors? What's our positioning here? What's our messaging? How do we enable our sales team better? So all of those product marketing skills. And I was introduced then to April Dunford, and then I realized like, oh, hey, this is like what I'm doing. This is what I like. This is the piece here. And so I've been in marketing in general, but products marketing is my core skill set ever since, especially with startups too. So sort of roundabout way there.
Well, when you say it like that, like you mentioned how, at first you were questioning, hey, when someone lands here, what do they need? All the way to like getting deeper and deeper and deeper into product marketing. It almost feels like design is like a natural evolution in
Yeah.
for product marketing. Is there any other like kind of analogous or like threads you've pulled into from design?
Yeah. I mean, design thinking and the way you approach problems in general, like you mentioned, it's sort of in there of the like understand what the user's problems are, sort of scope it out, try to brainstorm, is there a way to like flip this on its head or get more creative about it and then test and iterate and go back. So like I, use those same skills in product marketing of going through that design thinking process in one way or another. I think that's really a translatable type of skill. And same thing in there, like writing user stories and business requirements and things like that you do a lot as a designer or can, you don't always. Um, Sometimes that's a little more product based, but doing that really helps you think about positioning the problem or the solution you're trying to build for a different audience. So you're writing user stories that a developer can understand. You're writing business requirements that, the C-suite from any department can understand. So you're sort of like positioning the problem and packaging things for the different audiences internally, with the user as the underlying sort of base and foundation for what you're writing. So that also translates over, right? We're always, as product marketers, like, how do I take our positioning and our messaging and package it for sales? And then how do I package it for marketing? And how do I package it? Like, it's always a little bit different. Not to mention, we want our messaging to resonate with our audience, our customer, right? So that's another, like, how are we phrasing things and packaging things for them? So I think that's also the way you think about that, and that empathy really translates over between the two roles too.
Yeah. And you mentioned that like some of your mentors were in product and also marketing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is like kind of a dead question now, but like, yeah, based on that experience, where do you think product marketing should sit? Like, where do we fit in the org?
So I think it depends on the org to me. I think if you're a product-led org, it makes a lot of sense for product marketing to sit under product, because so much of what's happening for the user journey is in the product itself. So, you might have a little bit of sales involved, but it's sort of that user helping them along the journey, which means that product owns a lot of that journey. Um, and then on a sales-led organization, marketing is probably going to be leading a bigger chunk of their journey because it's getting them educated before they get into the product. So getting them educated, sales educated, prepped for sales, and then helping sales. So in that type of an org, it might make more sense for product marketing to sit under marketing, as opposed to product. I think it could kind of sit anywhere. I've sat under either or. But I think that's usually how I tend to think about dividing it. I think in product led, it makes a lot of sense for it to sit under product. I think that's made in product led orgs that I've been on, I've sat under product, and it's made it so much easier for me to do my job, to be working really closely with product managers, to think about the roadmap and use product marketing in a strategic way there to decide what do we need to change about the product, what feedback needs to come in here functionality wise, as opposed to on the marketing side of, how do we need to make sure they have the right information so they're primed for sales. I think those are sort of two different use cases, I think.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, so looking back at your career, if you could go back and kind of whisper some advice to this younger designer version of yourself, what would it be? What's the advice you give?
I would probably tell myself to not worry so much about following a predefined or clear career path. Um, I obviously haven't, but I think it's easy, for me, like my husband's in academia, my brother and sister-in-law are both in architecture. Like I'm surrounded by people who have a very clear path of like, you do this, it takes you here, it takes you here, it takes you here, and then you have your job. And like, this is what you do as your career. Um, and that's not me. In general, it's also not been my path. And I don't think there's a problem in that, but it's not something that I ever saw or heard very much. I had a lot of people that were supporting me to make whatever decisions I wanted, but I still worried about it. And I still thought about like, wow, how did I get here? Am I doing this wrong? Like, shouldn't I have figured this out before? Like, why did I even bother being a designer? Shouldn't I have jumped right into this? So I think giving myself that like confidence to just follow my path earlier, um, I don't know that it would have changed my path, but I wouldn't have spent so much time thinking about it and worrying, like, am I doing the right thing? So probably that's my advice I would give myself earlier on.
I like that. That's a recurring theme. And actually, I spoke to Kristen Brooks, who was on this podcast like a few months ago. She said something really interesting around like how even within product marketing, like you can continue to reinvent yourself, and like you don't have to think of it like whatever product marketer to senior product marketer to this. Just
Yeah.
jump around and try other roles. So I think that's really really good advice. Um, awesome. So speaking of jumping around roles, I this is usually where I talk to people about, hey, what are you up to right now? But you are in between jobs. Tell me about that experience. Tell me about what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm starting a new job in 2 days, actually. So, yeah, I have been, the company I was with previously, I was with another startup, very early stage. They decided to close down. And so as soon as I, knew that they were going to close down, we had a lot of warning. I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. And for me, I've jumped around a lot. Working in early stages, I've had a lot of experiences of being laid off based on funding and, staffing and all sorts of things. And I try to look at all of these opportunities. I do something that I learned back from my production marketing mentors of called quote unquote job crafting. I don't know if that's a real term or something they invented, but I like it. I've used it ever since. So looking at what have I liked about this last opportunity? What have I not liked? What do I want more of? What do I want to try? So like what skills have I learned that I want to keep doing? What do I want to learn? What do I like about the context of the company I'm in? And what do I want to change? And so I sort of went through that process and then, started looking for what I wanted. And now I'm starting in 2 days. So yeah,
I like
going
that.
through the whole job search ringer that we're all familiar with.
Yeah, yeah, and it sounds like you exited that search pretty quickly, which is hard to do. So, I mean, job crafting is a very interesting tip. I've actually
Mhm.
never heard the term, but it sounds like you're like doing a pretty deep retro on the jobs you've had, and it's like
Yeah.
it sounds really important.
Mhm.
I took notes because I could use that myself, even though I'm not necessarily
Yeah.
looking right now. But yeah, I guess all to say, like, how do you get jobs so quickly? Like, it's not easy, whether it's early stage, whether it's later on. And I know,
Yeah.
especially in product marketing, it's a tough market out there.
Um, well, I want to answer that, but I do want to say one thing with job crafting, of based on your comment, is I was taught job crafting when I wasn't looking for another job. So I think it's a really cool concept of you should always be thinking about your job so that you're prepared for any opportunities that come your way, even within your company, right? So, I was taught to always sort of think about, and if you have a manager that you can share this with, share like, what are you interested in? What do you wish you could do more of or less of if given the opportunity? So that when, you realize, hey, we need somebody else on the marketing team, you're able to come to the table and say, well, I really like doing these product marketing tasks. I don't like doing these. And we try to hire somebody that part of what they'll do is take these things I don't like off my plate and I'll maybe take on these. So it's like I'm always sort of thinking about that. So it's not just job crafting when you're hopping jobs, but also when you're in your job as sort of like a constant, reflection and iteration on your own career path, sort of as you go along. But I just wanted to say that because it actually isn't for like your job in general, like finding your next job. I was taught to do it in my existing job, which is interesting. Uh, but in terms of finding a job, I don't. So this is think my fourth job in 4 years. It's been a rough stretch, as we all know. The startup world, in particular, tech is a bit of a wild place right now, a bit rough. But you're right. I don't know that I have any particular big secrets for how I find jobs. I have been very fortunate to not be unemployed for long stretches of time. Um, I think one of the things from a strategic standpoint is that I don't look at jobs from a really technical standpoint or I don't look at them from like a label standpoint, from a job title or a particular industry or things like that. I focus on the skills again that I want. It's like when I'm searching for what jobs are out there, I'm searching anything with the word marketing in it. So I'm not necessarily looking for just product marketing or senior product marketer or, what have you. Like I don't really pay attention to job titles, which funnily enough, this is about to be the first job where I've officially been hired with product manager or product marketer as my job title. So take that as you will. But I really look at the skills, and I think that helps me have a leg up in applying and trying to position myself better for the role because I've looked at the individual skills and said, like, these are the things I'm really good at, no matter how you're packaging it around the job title or the team. Obviously, that's important. If I'm want to be at a senior level, I'm not going to take an entry level job, right? I do need to look at that, but that's not how I approach it. And so I think that helps uh, in finding a fit and then being able to position myself. I think So from that standpoint, I also usually will start my job search. I'll give myself a period of time, depending on where I am financially or my schedule, like how urgently I need to find a job. I'll say, like, I'm going to give myself this set amount of time to be really intentional about what I'm applying for. So I only want to apply for jobs that I really want, and that I think are really good fits for me. And then after that deadline, I'll open it up and start applying for things that are like not quite what I wanted, but like, good jobs, so that I'm not just throwing everything. I'm really dedicating my time to find the right fit, and put the effort into applying in that process, before I open that up, to like just apply a little bit more broadly. So I think from a strategic standpoint, that's important. And I think has helped me. I don't know. um, I also think that, I have a portfolio website, which is sort of a hangover from being a designer, that I've turned into a product marketing portfolio, a marketing portfolio. But I think that is really helpful. I've had people mention that it's been really helpful during the interview process, during looking at my application, to see more examples. People love to see visual stuff put together. So even if the visuals aren't, even if it's just sort of like a picture of the final sales collateral or some booklet or something, but what I'm really doing is digging into my thought process of like, how did I do this project? What did I do? And at the very least, it helps me prep for my interview, right? Because now I have these projects and these use cases at hand that I can either pull up as, this supporting document while we talk through it, or at the very least, if I read through it, I can walk you through that now because it's clear in my head. I don't have to like pull these examples out. I have my set 8, 10, whatever, that check a whole bunch of boxes and interview questions that I can easily walk you through at any time. So I think it's both helpful in getting interviews and getting through interviews, if that makes sense. That was a lot. I'm gonna stop.
No, I think these are all really good tips. I really like setting a time horizon. Like, here's where I'm going to be, whatever. Take like the sniper approach, and then eventually you have to extend it. You mentioned the interview process. I think when we spoke, like, you had a pretty extensive one. I'm curious, like, what did that look like? How did you navigate that? Any tips for the specific like interview process as well?
Yeah. So this particular role that I'm starting, I interviewed with, I think, 7 different people over maybe 5 interviews. So it was a really robust interview process, I guess. And they were intentional with that. They wanted to make sure that I met with all of the main folks that I would be working with and whose departments were going to be relying on this role. For me, it was really helpful to talk to so many different people because I'm interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me. And I wanted to make sure that I could support all of these different departments, right? Product marketing supports so many different departments. And so being able to talk to somebody from each one of those was really great to get a sense of how will we work together? What are you looking for? What's your working and communication style? And can we make that work? So that was really great. It was also interesting. I didn't do any projects. This is the first time, I think ever, that I haven't had to do at least some type of a project. But again, I think I talked them through a lot. I like to use our conversations as an opportunity to walk through prior projects and like really pull forward what translates. So I think that helped. This was also with really senior level folks on the VP level. So I think they're also really great at reading people and understanding what's going to work. But another tip too that I'll offer in terms of interviewing and how to get through that process is, gosh, I stole this from somebody on LinkedIn, or various people on LinkedIn talk about this, of having sort of like a prep document. So I like to sort of organize my thoughts ahead of time. And because it's, again, I look at it for skills, I'll go through the job description and pull out, what are the skills you're looking for? What are the things you're looking for? And I'll have this sort of prep document where I take notes about what projects do I have, what experience do I have that translates to each one of those. And so that I can organize my thoughts and make sure I check those boxes, and then I can easily pull those up in a conversation. So if they want to talk to me like, hey, you haven't done a lot of partner marketing on your resume. Can you talk about any experience you have? Like I've already identified that from the job description and I've written down some notes so I can easily have that conversation and pull stuff forward. And it helps me like connect the dots between prior jobs and this job and how I think they'll translate ahead of time. So that's been really helpful for me alongside the portfolio. They sort of do similar things.
That's PhD level stuff. That's why you're able to get through all these jobs. You're able to get all these jobs. I love it. So yeah, and part of that also sounds like you've been breaking through lots of different industries, which is not always easy as well. Whether that's nature of the job, because people, especially now, want like product marketers with 20 years of experience, and they're very nascent and niche market. So how do you manage that part? How do you break into new industries? Um, and I guess also is like from a job crafting and strategy standpoint, is that intentional? Are you doing that by design?
Believe it or not, it's not intentional. I think everything that I have done has a heavy tech component, and always will. I think that's sort of like the only intentional thread, is it has to be some sort of tech-based product. I did do, my first startup was apparel, but we had a heavy tech part in terms of our sales process. Um, but believe it or not, it's not intentional. But it's sort of just a byproduct of the fact that I follow the skills again and not the industry. Um, and again, it's really similar. I don't have like a big secret, but I think the way that I can position myself is very similar to following the skills. So looking at, is there some overlap around enterprise? Is there some overlap like this industry that I'm about to go into actually has a lot of parallels to having worked back in a livestock publication company where I was working with farmers and ranchers and sort of their approach to things. I've worked in the legal industry with big law. Those two are very different, but they also move very slowly, right? Like they're slow to change, big enterprise companies. They're skeptical. Yes, they're totally different in some ways, but there is a lot of overlap. And so I think being able to find those overlapping points in industries is really helpful. To be able to say, hey, look, no, I don't know about your industry. I don't know anything about it. However, I think it translates, what I've done translates in these ways. Or else I lean on like my own personal experience. I was just coming off of an HR tech company, which don't have any experience in HR tech, but we were working on a platform that would help folks get to know each other and get up to speed faster when you're working on remote teams. Guess what? I have a lot of experience working as a remote employee and having that personal experience. Like I'm sort of that user, that end user. I might not be the buyer, but I'm the end user. So like finding other ways that my own personal experience might translate, I think it's been helpful. I also am still very strongly in the camp of, for the most part, product marketers are great at understanding their user. And so if you're good at understanding your user, it doesn't matter if you know the industry or not. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, like you're going to do that legwork to understand your user, whether you're familiar with the industry or not. And so I think for earlier stage companies and where I've been working, it's really been the case of it's okay that I don't have that industry experience. It's actually fine to go in with a blank slate and approach all of these users and buyers and saying like, explain it to me like I'm an idiot, because guess what? I am an idiot. And then really understanding what's happening instead of coming in with assumptions.
I like that. And it's like partly it's, I guess, selling them on the idea, right? Just like you would sell any product. It's like making sure you're positioned in the right way and finding
Yeah.
there's, I guess, features of yourself that do actually align very well to what the buyer, aka the company that's hiring you, is interested in
Mhm.
getting out of their job candidate. Um,
Yeah.
very interesting. So when you look at like your career overall, I guess this is an iteration of like kind of advice for your younger self, but like more so, what did you learn so far through your career that like no one really taught you? Like there was no guidebook to product marketing that kind of said, hey, these are the rules and here's what you should follow. Like what did you kind of have to find out for yourself?
Oh, I mean, a lot. I had, I learned a lot from a lot of folks, but I think figuring out how to piece it together has been, for me, in the same way of, people can teach you the skills and they can teach you what their path was and how they approach something or how they problem solve, but like it's not always going to work for you. So figuring out how that works for me and taking what is out there and what I learn and figuring out how to make that work for my individual position, for my career path. Like nobody told me I could jump around in industries, but I was like, I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. And guess what? It's been working. So like just sort of that process of making it fit me and my needs and skills has been something I taught myself. I think also the importance of and the ways to find your community and support in your role is something nobody taught me. I had it really early in my career and then I didn't. It sort of disappeared gradually as I transitioned through all these different roles at different companies. And so figuring out how important that is, which is sort of silly to say, but like you have it and it's great. And then when it's gone, you're like, oh, wow, that was really awesome. Like, why, how do I get that again? Um, so finding ways to find that, I think I had to learn for myself and figure out for myself. And I try now through like mentoring and things to help provide that for other people and help guide them through that too. I think we've all started. I don't know if it existed before and I didn't find it, but I feel like there's a lot more conversation now about like solo product marketers and finding community and help with each other and connecting in that way that maybe it existed and I didn't find it, or it feels to me like it's becoming more prevalent and more voiced and out there in the open than it used to, which is great.
Yeah. And let's say you're talking to a product marketer who's trying to go from late stage to like super early stage. What are some of the whatever caution you're gonna give them, advice they're gonna give them so they're prepared?
Yeah. I mean, one is just that it's not for everyone. So, like, be prepared to have it not work for you. And that's okay. That is my number one is think about what it really is and really be honest with yourself, both ahead of time to see, does this feel right? And then once you're in it, does it feel right? And the answer might be no. And you can either choose to sort of stay there and learn what you need to while you're there and then use it as a launching pad to go back to something different, or, maybe you love it and you stay there. I think I say this a lot. Early startups are about being comfortable with fires. Like there's always fires going on. And so you don't quite understand or at least in my experience, it's very different to say, I'm at later stage, I'm a bigger stage company and there's some fires and then I put them out. In early stages, there will always be fires. You will not put out the fires. Like there will be different shapes and sizes and types of fires. Every startup is going to always have them burning. So like you have to be comfortable with that. And also they're always going to be a little bit different in terms of like, do you have this raging dumpster fire or do you have this like, you know, runway looming over you that's this slow burn fire, or is it that your product is barely standing on two legs at this stage? Like what does it look like? And decide what you're comfortable with. Like you might be fine with the fact that your product's about to crumble, but like the stress of knowing if you're going to have funding in 6 months could just be something you can't operate under. Or the opposite could be true. Like you couldn't care less about funding. You're able to like put that in a box and put it in the closet and never think about it. But like the fact that your product is crumbling could like, you just can't handle that. So I think that is also something to learn about with earlier stages is like figure out what you are comfortable with. There's lots of options out there. So like really understand and be honest with yourself about what you can thrive in and under and what you can't. Because it's a really fast path to burnout if you stay in these places that have disasters that you can't work under, because they're all going to have pressures. You just have to find the right fit for yourself, which goes back to my like you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, because you don't want to get there and find out like, holy cow, you have this giant fire in the closet and you hit it really well, but like I can't handle that, I gotta get out of here. So yeah, those are like the really big themes that I talk to people about. There's a lot of stuff with early stage, but I think that's a huge one um, that people don't really realize until they get into it. And it's okay. I think that's the other, like, it's cool if that's not for you. Like, find something else. Like, there's so many options.
Yeah, I've had a few friends who joined early stage, and they started literally asking. They'll sign an NDA and say, "Hey, we want to see we want to see under the hood, see some of the numbers." And I think that's really smart. I think like early stage, you might even have that opportunity. So, yeah, I agree. It's like understand where those fires are, and I think to your earlier point, like, I guess to me, the analogy is like if you have a stove, all these burners are going to be on, right? And like, it's a matter of, there's going to be a point where something might get overcooked. You just have to like keep all those going. You have to kind of juggle those balls and know that
Yeah.
there is kind of some sort of looming uncertainty almost always,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes.
which can make it really fun, but also very scary.
Yeah. And you might decide that you love startups early in your life and you do that for a number of years. And then as your life changes, you're like, ugh, I don't think I want this anymore. Right. When I was in my early 20s, like I could work until 8, 9 o'clock at night because I loved what I was doing and I didn't have any other constraints. So like I had no other stress that I really needed to worry about. But then life changes and you might need to change. So that's another thing to keep in mind. You can always do it for a little bit and then bounce back out. I like that
Absolutely.
stove analogy though. Some stuff gets undercooked, some stuff gets overcooked, and nothing's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not a great cook, so it's like perfect for me too. It's like, all right, I just have to save things from burning.
Yes, just make it edible. It's just gotta
Yeah.
be edible.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, this was amazing. Awesome conversation. Always great to catch up with you. Something I like to do is ask a specific question towards the end of my episodes. I don't know if you tuned in and you already have the heads up, but what I like to ask is product marketing is blank. Can you fill in the blank?
I would say, in keeping with my own personal theme and journey here, product marketing is much more than you think. It's bigger than you think, and it's more than you think. Is my statement. Which to elaborate, I mean, I think my journey sort of says that product marketing. I feel like we're trying a lot to really clearly define what product marketing is as a community, and as people outside of product marketing, they really want like this clear definition of what product marketing is. And I think it just changes so much based on the context and needs of the company. And so, yes, it's good to be able to define it, but I think it's also important to think about it in the context of where you are, that product marketing at one company is going to look different from somewhere else. I've never been someone, obviously, I'm sure you can piece this together. I've never been someone that's like, that's not my job. I'm not going to touch that. Obviously, it's important to go in and in your role, like clearly know what your responsibilities are within that company. You don't want to have to take on all the stuff that's not really yours and shouldn't be yours and overload yourself because you're just saying yes to everything. But being open to understand that product marketing can include or not include a lot of different things depending on where you are. So I would say product marketing is much more than you think it is. Even for me as a product marketer, I feel like I'm always like, oh, product marketing is also this. Like there's always something new that I'm learning that sits under product marketing or can sit under it that I didn't know.
I like that. That's a new one. I don't think we've heard that one before.
No?
Um,
Yes.
you win.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. um, Michelle, how can people learn more about what you're up to? You're starting a new gig in a few weeks or a few days.
Yeah.
So yeah, how can they follow your journey? How can they get in touch?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I go through phases of putting stuff up there and not putting stuff up there. We'll see. Probably now that I'm starting something new, I'll have lots of new perspectives and things to share on there. And then I'm always on the ADP list. I'm always around Product Marketing Alliance too. But LinkedIn is probably the home where you can find most of what I've got going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Sid. It was great talking.
For everyone still tuned in, thanks so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please help us spread the word to other product marketers. Thanks again and have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.